Hey YouTube, Nikki here, and today I have a very special video. So far this year I've done a bunch of videos where I've talked about all of the comic books that I've bought and how excited I was, but I never talked about the ones I've been reading, so you're all like, was it good? I don't know, but it looks pretty. So today I'm going to talk about every single graphic novel and trade paperback that I have read this year. My thoughts, my feelings, my innermost desires. I'm kidding. Now I counted and I think there are only about 13, which is far less than I would have read in a previous year, but I just have not been reading as much this year. So without any further ado, let's get into it. The first book that I read this year was Runaways Volume 1, Find Your Way Home. I was really excited when this series was announced. It started last year. This series is by Rainbow Rowell, who's a young adult author whose books like Eleanor and Park and Fangirl I have read and enjoyed in the past, and Chris Anker is an artist that I've never really come across before. So I wasn't really sure how it was going to go, but I'm a massive fan of the original Runaways series, created of course by Brian K. Vaughan of Saga fame or Why the Last Man, and of course the amazing Adrian Alphona, who's done things like Ms. Marvel. The series is aimed at young adults, follows 6 teenagers who discover that their parents are literally evil villains. So as the title would suggest, the teenagers run away. Along the way they find out that they not only inherited their parents' good looks, but some other things as well, like extraterrestrial origins, a psychic link with a dinosaur, cool gadgets, mutant genes, all that jazz. So they are sort of trying to figure out who they are and have some adventures of their own. I think originally the series went about 4 years. This new series by Rainbow Rowell and Chris Anker, it's set in the future of everything that's happened. There's a character who's essentially ended up left behind, and they come to find that their friends have all moved on and separated, and they're no longer on the run. Are they still the same people that they were? Should they be running away? Should they be trusting adults? It's still got those coming of age sort of themes to do with adolescence. I'm not 100% sold on Chase's man bun. I'm not hating on the man bun. I just don't know if Chase would go there, but he's a bit more hipster in this one. I don't know. So I do enjoy it. I am continuing to read it monthly. You can pick up this one without having read any of the previous stuff. It lays it out like in text, the important bits. I'd still recommend reading at least Brian K. Vaughan's original run because it is so good. I loved it so much. I reread it all the time. It's amazing. The next thing that I read was XMen Grand Designs by Ed Piskor. XMen has this huge, massive history. The whole idea of Grand Designs is that it takes all of the history and puts it in a comic book. Volume 1, which is what I read, goes pretty much from the start, Charles Xavier, etc., up until I believe the Dark Phoenix saga. But I really enjoyed this comic. I found it really approachable. I will say that it's pretty obvious you're reading a historical recounting rather than just an average comic book because of the way the story reads, but I really enjoyed it because that's what I was looking for. I just wanted to know everything that happened to get an idea of all the different characters. So that's what I got. Really pleased about it. Very much looking forward to volume 2. I've been trying to catch up with DC Comics bombshells forever. What this series has taught me is I'm not good with reading fortnightly books. Monthly is key. Monthly books are key. I read volumes 4, 5, and 6 of DC Comics Bombshells, completing that whole story. This is by Marguerite Bennett and a whole bunch of artists, including Laura Braga and Mocha Andolfo, 2 artists that I totally adore. This series reimagines all of our DC heroines from Wonder Woman to Supergirl to Stargirl as heroes during an alternate World War II. They're based on a series of statues and designs by Aunt Lucia. I was so skeptical about reading this series to start with because it was so based on just this visual idea. I do feel like the strength of this book and the reason I love it so much is just seeing these characters reimagined. Like they each have their own new origin story as to why they became the way they are in World War II. However, because there are so many different characters, it does weigh down the plot a bit. With that said, I just adore all of the characters and it's really fun to read. I think from the first trade where we just had Wonder Woman, Stargirl, Supergirl, I think Batwoman was there, to now at the end having 1,000,005 characters, there's such a difference. So I did enjoy that first trade more, but I liked seeing all of the characters. So your mileage is going to vary depending on what characters you like, but it's a really easy series to read. The art is beautiful. So it was a good series for me to start with. It was the first series that I ever started pulling because I didn't have to worry about keeping up with everything else that was happening in the DC universe. So I'd recommend that if you are looking for something similar. I love Bombshells. Bombshells for life. Next we had Dark Knight's Metal. This is the very first event that I followed. And by followed, I mean I read the like 6 issues called Dark Knight's Metal. None of the tie-ins, none of the like one-shots, and none of the surrounding material. Basically, there's walls opening to another evil world where like there's different versions of Batman and they're all evil and creepy. It is very inspired by like heavy metal aesthetic. It involves pretty much all of the Justice League. As for this event, I really enjoyed it. I liked the aesthetic. It was just really easy to follow without having to read any of the tie-ins. And it was fun to see everyone go like full metal. It's like the artists were like, what's the most metal thing we could put on this freaking page? Oh, we'll have Batman writing this Joker beast thing. You can tell the creators just had so much fun making this. So I really enjoyed it. And now the tie-ins and prelude and all that jazz has been collected into hardcovers. So I might catch up with those and get the full experience. Another series I read, oh, it was a plane. Oh my gosh, where is everyone flying to today? So many planes. Another series that I read as it was coming out was Gotham City Garage. This series is another one that's based off a line of statues. I don't know who made the statues actually. I'd seen the statues, but the like motorcycle girl aesthetic isn't really my jazz, so I never really got into them. Then I heard about the story. I was intrigued immediately because it's actually a dystopian. So it is set in a dystopian future Gotham, which is run by Lex Luthor, and there's like mind control, and all of Gotham is sort of in this big glass dome, protected from the outside world. And so everyone inside doesn't really know what's out there. In the beginning of the story, we have Jim Gordon, who discovers the corruption and all that jazz, and helps his daughter Kara, aka Supergirl, escape the dome. She flees into the desert outside and discovers that there's all of these ladies with motorcycles. It's basically Mad Max with like a whole bunch of superhero ladies. Although not just ladies, because Nightwing is hilarious in this book. Oh my gosh. And it's like, there's no discernible reason why Wonder Woman has to ride a motorbike to tackle people because she's Wonder Woman. But it just makes it so much fun when she does. So, boom, good stuff. I really liked it. It's 12 issues and it was always going to be 12 issues, so it's a very enclosed story. I think it's a good length as well because it explores everybody, has a cohesive plot, and I really enjoyed the way that it ended as well. The art style wasn't as consistently good as something like Bombshells because it did change artists a bit. I'd recommend it. Again, really good series if you just want to pick something up and read it without having to subscribe to any continuity. Next up was another event, and this time it was a crossover between DC and DC's imprint called Young Animal. Now, Young Animal has a bunch of weird kind of left of center titles like Doom Patrol, Cave Carson has a cybernetic eye, Shade the Changing Girl, other stuff that I've forgotten, Mother Panic. As you can probably tell, I know jack all about Young Animal. All I knew is that Gerard Way, as in the Gerard Way, writes Doom Patrol and stuff. Like, I thought this would be a good opportunity because they were crossing over to try and meet these characters for the first time. So basically this is set sort of from the perspective of the Young Animal characters, which threw me at first because I don't know anything about them, but it was easy enough to follow and I got to meet them, which is fun. Basically, this evil corporation known as Retcon has tried to retcon the world by brainwashing people, and then you end up with DC superheroes in this Young Animal Doom Patrol world where they aren't who they should be because they've been affected by the milk, which is brainwashing everybody. It was pretty fun. I feel like it was a good introduction to all of the Young Animal characters. I haven't picked up any Young Animal since, but I do plan on reading Doom Patrol because that book sounds so weird. Anyway, it was a lot of fun and it was a cool way to meet all the Doom Patrol characters, which is what I wanted to do. I reread Wonder Woman Volume 3. I went to read Wonder Woman Volume 4 and I was like, yo, I don't know what's happening. I can't remember. In the first volume of Rebirth, we have Wonder Woman and she is really confused. She doesn't know what's going on. She's been lied to. She doesn't know what the truth is anymore because she hasn't actually ever been back to Themyscira, her Paradise Island, since she left. And she just thinks that she has. So someone's been manipulating her. Volume 2 actually takes us back to her new origin story. And Volume 3 starts exploring who is manipulating Wonder Woman and why. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I like all of the human element around it. Like, it's her humanity, even though she's not really human, that I like to see explored. And that series really is doing an awesome job at that. So I'm going to read number 4 soon and hopefully catch up to where the trades are for this series. A friend loaned me The Legend of Wonder Woman Volume 1 Origins, although I don't think there's a Volume 2. Was this series the one that was cancelled? I'm pretty sure it was cancelled. And this is just looking at Wonder Woman's origins. It's another way of looking at it. It's by Renee DeLiz and Ray Dillon. The art is really beautiful. It's a sweet origin story. I wouldn't say that it's groundbreaking in any way. It did feel a little bit long. It's 9 issues and I felt like it did drag on a little bit. This is a good alternative to the main series for younger readers, probably. I found that some of the characters were lacking, unfortunately. I really loved Wonder Woman, of course, because she's amazing. But Steve Trevor, for example, was like super dull. I didn't care about him at all. He's Steve Trevor. I always care about Steve Trevor. So even if there were a volume 2, I probably wouldn't pick it up. Technically, this isn't a graphic novel, but it is like a 90-page comic, so I'm going to talk about it. It was Spider-Man number 800. Honestly, I'm nowhere near up to date with the Amazing Spider-Man. I sort of read something here or there, but I've not been following the series. So when I picked this up, I was like, I'm going to read it because I want to, but I don't know if I'm going to know what's happening. And actually, it was fine. I feel like Amazing Spider-Man is one of those titles you can kind of just pick up any issue and sort of, you know, Spider-Man, you can't really go wrong. You can kind of follow it no matter what. This is obviously Spidey versus the Red Goblin and featuring a whole bunch of different characters. It's a beautiful send-off for Dan Slott leaving Spider-Man. Not gonna lie, didn't think Dan Slott would ever leave Spider-Man, but that happened. New eras ahoy. I have this dream of like reading all of the Amazing Spider-Man ever, but that's never going, like this, it's 800 issues. It's not gonna happen, but I want it to. I want it to happen. Another graphic novel that I got lent to me was the XFiles Origins. This is by Jody Houser. I don't think I've read a lot by Jody Houser except for Faith. I haven't actually seen all of the X-Files because it's not streaming anywhere. Somebody needs to get X-Files, all of it, streaming somewhere so I can watch all of it because I haven't watched the latest seasons because I am a completionist. I have to watch things from beginning to end, okay? Can't watch the random new episodes without knowing the entire history of however many seasons there've been. It's who I am. Anyway, this is like a prequel, so it's set way before the X-Files, and it follows Mulder and Scully as their kids, follows them on one summer holidays like separately. So Mulder is at Martha's Vineyard on holiday, Scully is just in San Diego. Something weird is happening at Martha's Vineyard and there is a murder in San Diego. So they're both exploring those mysteries, sort of explores their character as the cynic and the believer. It was fun enough. I really liked the art style as well. Didn't change my life. The two stories crossed over pretty well because they did tie in sort of without the characters meeting, which is good because I hate it when people retcon things. Oh, you've actually met before, you just forgot. No. People who are probably huge fans of the X-Files might enjoy this more than me. I just realized I'm wearing alien earrings, so that's appropriate. I want to believe. Question for you all. Would you be Mulder or would you be Scully? Sometimes I think I would be Scully, but then other times I think I would be Mulder. Anyway, the story was good. It dragged on a little bit and it was a little bit repetitive in some ways. I can't really explain. And finally, we have Spider-Man Volume 1. This is the first volume of Miles Morales, aka Spider-Man. Not the amazing, not spectacular, just Spider-Man in the main Marvel universe. Previously to this, I've read Ultimate Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and his journey. I feel like there is a gap somewhere. I need to read the end of the Ultimate Universe because I still don't know exactly the circumstances that he came into the Marvel Universe, and this doesn't really explain that. So I'm like, oh, you're alive. I didn't know that that person was alive. I'm so confused. What is happening? I think it's called Ultimate End, which is the end of the Ultimate Universe. But anyway, after Secret Wars, where the world got mashed together, bada bing, bada boom, Miles Morales is in the main universe. He is, of course, the Black Hispanic Spider-Man who has a different power set and is not taking over Peter Parker. Side note, I'm very excited about the animated movie coming out in, like, what is it, November? Because not only do we get Miles Morales, we get Spider-Gwen, and Peter Parker is there as well. Like, all of the Spider people, if they don't have a Spider-Pig cameo, I'm gonna sue them. Anyway, this wasn't my favorite Miles Morales story so far. It was pretty good though. I mean, it had a lot to do. It sort of had to establish that he's Spider-Man, but he's not Peter Parker. He's just Spider-Man, and he doesn't want to be the Black Spider-Man, which I feel like was for the benefit of a lot of people who are now like, oh, there's a new Spider-Man. Peter Parker still has 2 comic books of his own. Chill out. I like that there's so much of his family involved as well, because it's very different to Peter Parker's story and support system, where he has his aunt and he has Mary Jane and he's sort of figuring out himself, whereas Miles Morales isn't an orphan. He has a family and he has to deal with that side of things, which is awesome and really interesting to read. I just realized I forgot a book because it's not in my Goodreads. Why is it not in my Goodreads? I don't know. Barrier by Brian K. Vaughan, Marcos Martin, and Munster Vincente. I don't know if I pronounced those right. There was a 5-part story that was originally available on panelsyndicate.com as a pay what you want thing, but they did during the month of May release them in a weird big size, which was super annoying for comic book stores and people who had to package them. And it's not going to be collected in a trade paperback form. It's a really interesting and beautiful comic. It explores barriers between people, really. It follows a number of different characters, and 2 of these characters are abducted by aliens. There are Hispanic characters who are skipping the border into America. There's a woman whose farm keeps getting threatened by these people, and then there's this guy, I think he's actually from another Spanish-speaking country, maybe. Look, I should have looked this up. I'm sorry. And he and the woman get abducted by aliens. The 2 characters can't speak to each other, so there's a language barrier. what? And there's a lot of other stuff going on. A lot of the book is in Spanish, but you do not have to know any Spanish to read it because I didn't. Sorry, Senora Priest, but I remember exactly 0 Spanish from high school. There's an entire issue, I think, without any dialogue. There's one that's got only Spanish, I think. But the thing is that the storytelling is so good and very visual, so you don't have to be able to read it. It's actually a beautiful book. I'd recommend picking it up. It's only 5 issues, so it's not gratuitously sexual or gory because it doesn't have the time to do that. But it does have very adult things in it, so I would not recommend this for younger readers. So those are all the comics that I've read. Probably 14 now, the barrier. I do hope in the second half of the year to be reading way more in general and way more of the comics that I have, just because these are mostly things that I've read as they're coming out and I haven't been picking as much off my shelf as I would like this year. But I thought I would start with comics. I just got a message from my comic book store that my comic books are in because I'm filming this on a Wednesday. So I'm gonna go get those and I will see you next time. But in the meantime, feel free to chuck us a like if you like, or subscribe if you want to see more. Also, let me know in the comments what you've been reading / any recommendations you might have based upon the selection of books that I've presented to you today. I'll have another video coming up very soon of all of the books, like novels, that I've read this year because I've read a bunch of those as well. Happy New Comic Book Day if this goes up on a Wednesday. It'll probably take me a week to edit, let's be real. Also, let me know if you'd like to see more comic book related content from me because I want to make more comic book content. It's fun. Man, I'm really hungry. I should eat lunch. Oh, I think I just got a package. Yes!